Welcome to the Philly Factor. I'm Paul Perillo. The American Red Cross has a unique role in serving as the safety net for the American people in their hour of greatest need. We have seen the efforts of the American Red Cross both on the international, national, and local scenes in assisting with the aftermath of tsunamis, the disaster of Hurricane Katrina, and wildfires in Southern California, as well as assistance given to local people in the aftermath of a house fire. When they have nowhere to go and they're out in the cold, they need a place to live. The American Red Cross is there. The Southeastern Pennsylvania chapter of the American Red Cross was established in 1916 as a chartered unit of the American National Red Cross. The local chapter of the American Red Cross, the Southeastern Pennsylvania chapter, serves 3.5 million people in the 5-county Philadelphia region. We are fortunate enough to have with us here on the Philly Factor Tom Foley, CEO of the American Red Cross, Southeastern Pennsylvania chapter. Tom, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure, Paul.
Most oftentimes people think of the Red Cross as that agency, as I said, sort of the safety net there. We could always depend on the Red Cross, and we see it on the big level, on the big screen. You know, most recently with the wildfires in Southern California, we had a number of volunteers from the Philadelphia area go out to help the people in Southern California.
Absolutely. We have 26 of our volunteers from right here in Philadelphia who are on the ground in California right now, Paul. They're running shelters, they're driving our emergency response vehicles, which is how we get food to people out in the field. They're going up and down those highways in California.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say, Tom, that not a day goes by that the American Red Cross is not pushed into service. I mean, whether it's, you know, that row house fire in the city where a family is devastated by the fire, they have nowhere to live, they got out with the clothes on their back, and the American Red Cross is there to assist that family with not only getting clothing, but even finding a place to live afterwards.
No, absolutely. It's actually a fundamental part of our mission, Paul. 905 times last year we had disasters right here where people were displaced because of a fire. Most of the time it's a fire, sometimes it's a flood or some other factor. We're very unique in this region. We're the only Red Cross chapter in the country that has what we call Red Cross House. So we don't just put people in a motel for 3 nights. We actually have a facility we built at 40th and Powelton. The average stay is about 3 weeks. We put together a recovery plan for those families the day after they arrive there. It takes us about 3 weeks to get them back into either their own home or another form of some kind of assisted living on their own, full citizenship.
And it's sort of like the Red Cross is just there. It's not like people have to reach out for assistance. The Red Cross arrives on the scene, just like in the case of the wildfires in Southern California. Do they reach out? Does the chapter in Los Angeles, San Diego reach out to you, or do you just mobilize a team to go out there because that's what you know you have to do?
Yep, 2 different kinds of situations. In a national situation like that, Paul, we actually are organized through our national office in Washington. San Diego chapter would let us know. We, of course, depend on them for all the facts. And then our national office would let us know we're going to need X number of volunteers, and we start calling our volunteers. And we had 26 people who were available right away who could go out there for 3 weeks. In a local fire, we have a terrific relationship with the Philadelphia Fire Department who let us know what's going on. There are a lot more fire departments in the suburban counties. We watch the news. We have a 24/7 bridge where we're constantly monitoring what's going on out there. So we either get a direct notice from the fire department or we find out about it by just paying attention, and our volunteers get out there. And that's the real story of the Red Cross. We have 7,764 volunteers.
Wow.
And they're divided up wherever it is. If it's Northeast Philadelphia and it's Wednesday night, then it's Mary and her team. You know, if anything happens there, it's all broken out that way, Paul. So it's very organized. Sometimes it appears very spontaneous, but it's very organized. And it's people who have particular skill sets. You know, there's people who can take care of the food. There's people who start right away on the shelter issue. We have emotional support professionals, social workers, psychologists, psychiatrists, who are on the scene depending on the nature of the situation. We had 2 fires last night in Philadelphia, and our people were there.
Let's talk a little bit about the volunteers before we really get into the subject matter at hand here. But volunteers come from all walks of life?
All walks of life. It's very interesting. One of my favorite volunteers is a guy, I won't name him because there's so many good ones, but this particular guy happens to be a professor of engineering at Widener University. Here's the kind of things I've done with him. When we had repatriation last summer, 4,100 Lebanese Americans turn up in Philadelphia and somebody has to take care of them, and we did that. Ray was serving the food with me. You know, that's what he was doing. Martin Luther King Day last year, the Signature Project was putting together go kits, you know, for families in need, just so they'd be ready in disaster. The trash from the 60,000 items we put in those Go kits was pretty substantial. Ray was in charge with one of my sons of trash disposal. When we do our response call network for the California wildfires, we have volunteers who come in and take those emergency calls. We take the calls here far away from the disaster so that our volunteers on the ground can be delivering care in person. And Ray is really kind of our chief engineer on that. He's kept our software up to date, really helped us make sure that that system is what it should be. So people come in with one talent and end up developing others and using other skills.
I want to focus on, because most oftentimes we think of the Red Cross as an agency that sort of reacts to a disaster or a situation. But the Red Cross has sort of now been very much out in front, trying to get us all to be Red Cross ready. Tell us a little bit about this campaign.
It is a great phrase, Paul, be Red Cross ready. It is about preventing, if we can, and it's also about preparing for the inevitable, because we know some of these things are going to happen. Be Red Cross ready for us really means three things. Get a kit, make a plan, and be informed. And if we feel like if people do those three things, they're going to be ready for all kinds of disasters, whether it's the fire in the home or it's something like a pandemic. It could be a flood or a power outage or something that makes a whole community move for a period of time.
So it could be something small, it could be something medium, or something even
larger.
Yeah.
And our philosophy is let's be ready for whatever it is, you know. And we've tried to put together some steps and some lessons that will help people be ready, whether it's a fire in your own home or it's something that causes you to have to abandon your community for a week or so, as just happened in California.
Sure. All right, let's talk about get a kit, because people may be thinking they got to take everything, including the chicken soup or the kitchen sink, if you will, when they got to run out of the house for whatever reason. But what would be in that kit that is sort of essential and vital to take with you as you run out of the house?
Sure. Let's think that it's a house fire, and you've got to get out really quickly. You don't need to take food and water if it's a house fire. What you do need to have in a bag, hopefully, that's right close to the front door, which is most of the time going to be the way that you get out. You want to have something that has some of your key papers, a copy of the deed to the house, some insurance papers, medical papers, your insurance cards and things like that. You might want to have a little first aid kit in there, depending on what injuries might have happened. You might have, if you have a senior citizen in the home, you want to have a list of their medications, that they may be on, so that you can get those and we help you do that. Replace them very quickly. You might want to have a few tools. We tell people laugh about it, duct tape is a wonderful thing. You can do all kinds of things with duct tape. You're going to want to have, make sure that you pay attention to those medical issues. And if you have a pet, we actually recommend people, there's a little pet first aid kit that you can use. Then you want to have some way that you can stay in touch with people. We recommend crank-operated radios where you don't need a battery, but you can use a battery-operated radio. Just make sure that you got batteries and they're fresh.
Sure.
That kind of thing. A little envelope that might have little money, little coins. Sometimes in these situations, cell phones don't work. You might need to make a call. So those are the kind of things you need in a kit. If it's something where you think you might be out of the house for a longer period of time, then you're talking food and water and some other things as well.
Where should you put this kit? Should you put it at the front door? Do you put a kit at the back door? I guess it's got to be real convenient that if you got to run, you got to pick it up.
You got to grab it quickly.
Yeah, right.
Wherever you're going to pass quickly, sometimes there's a medium spot between those two exits from a home where you can the closet maybe where the coats are, and you can just reach in there and grab it. In my house, I have it pretty close to the front door, but right around a little side wall there, so I can just pick that up and go if there's some reason that we got to rush out of there.
Yeah. The other thing too is you can have a kit, but if everybody in the house isn't on board where the kit is and what you need to do in the event of emergency, the kit doesn't matter because you have mass panic on your hands. So even before, I guess, it's great to have this kit, you put it at the front door. Everybody in the house sort of needs to know what the plan is going to be.
And that's really key, and that's the second big point. You got to make a plan. Making a plan means a couple of things. One, that you've sat down as a family and you've talked about what's our evacuation routes here. Number one, number two, how do we go? And everybody agrees this is what we're going to do. The second thing is that you agree we're going to meet at, the neighbor's house 3 doors away, kind of thing. If it's just something in your home. You need a second place to meet in case your whole neighborhood's evacuated. So it might be, no, we're going to meet at the library, everybody get to the library and we'll see each other there. Or some place that's roughly in your community, but maybe not on your street. The third meeting thing you got to have is somebody you're going to call. You know, maybe Aunt Mo lives somewhere in New York State. She's outside of the area, but everybody's going to know. You call Aunt Mo, you let her know where you are, you let her know you're all right, you know, kind of thing. Because maybe not everybody's in the house, you know, and you want to be sure of that. So really important to make a plan, really important to have those contact points, and really important to practice the plan. You know? An interesting point, Paul, it's very funny. Kids really do a good job of taking charge of this kind of thing. In my house, it was my middle guy, when he was 13 years old, that Matt's good at that, you know, and Matt took responsibility for, you know, we've got to have a plan. Everybody's got to know what the plan is. You'd be amazed at what kids are willing to do when you let them have a little bit of the responsibility and the power there. You know, how should we be organized?
Yep. And the third part in terms of being Red Cross ready is be informed. You got to understand what the severity of the situation, the magnitude of the situation. You got to sort of know that this is not, you know, this is not a game, that this is for real, and everybody's got to be on board at the same time.
I think that's very well said, Paul, and I use three words: listen, learn, and share. Take learn first. You know, if you go on our website, whatever you think the situation might be, we're not going to have a wildfire in the city of Philadelphia, but we might have a massive power outage. You can learn a lot about what to do in a power outage by going on the redcross-philly.org website. It'll tell you exactly how to prepare, what to do when something like that happens, or a pandemic, or a terrorist attack, you know, so you can learn. Secondly, you got to listen, you know. Get that crank radio or your battery-operated radio. If you can still listen to a TV, listen to the TV. Find out what the authorities are telling you. There are people who have spent their whole lives, beginning with the fire and police department, getting ready for these kinds of things. They know what to do, and we need to listen to them. If they tell us to evacuate, we need to evacuate. And lastly, share. As you said, Paul, you need to tell other people in your family what it is that you've learned and what are the best things to do in these circumstances.
I want to go back to the Go Bag checklist, and we'll put it up there on the screen because I think it's real important. If you really are going to be forced to leave your home for a long period of time, yes, you need to have the insurance cards and copies of, you know, all the paperwork and everything, but this, you know, if you're going to be gone for a longer period of time, these are some of the other items that you should take. And we take these things for granted. I mean, you know, water. I mean, you know, we're not talking about, you know, filling up gallon jugs, but bottled water, small, you know, bottles of water is great to have with you.
Something to keep you going. We actually have these collapsible gallon containers that you can put water in. The rule of thumb is a gallon a day per person. You know? I actually have 16 gallons in my basement, you know, if I had to shelter in place in the home because there was a pandemic of some kind. Similarly, food. We have so many kinds of food now that these quickie bars and things like that. Just have a few of those in somewhere to be able to take care of people, especially if you're taking care of folks that maybe have a disability or a blood disorder of some kind. You want to make sure you have some essentials there to help them.
Sure. You mentioned tools, a small, you know, toolkit. You don't have to bring the whole toolbox out of the garage.
Small screwdriver. You'd be amazed what you can do with the pliers and a little duct tape. Yep.
First aid kits, you can pick them up, you know, anywhere today. And again, it's got the, you know, the key, you know, immediate needs, Band-Aids, you know.
Some antiseptic.
Exactly.
You know, those kind of things to take care of. You're not going to do heart surgery, but there may be some minor injuries that you can make people more comfortable with. And any kind of small first aid kit is a good thing to have. Yep,
and always be concerned about your pets, because, you know, you're worried about getting, you know, grandma and grandpa out of the house and the kids, and sometimes the pets, you know, are the last left in the house. And, you know, oftentimes cats and dogs will run when the door is open, but there are other pets that are left inside the homes too that oftentimes, you know, it could be a turtle, it could be an exotic pet like a snake or even a bird. You know, they're often, you know, they perish in fires because people don't remember to get them out of the house.
And very important. I mean, people really care deeply about their pets. And so when you think about responding to a disaster and preparing, you need to think about that as well.
Let me give the website out again. And there's a lot of great information on the website. You could go to redcross-philly.org, and you could get all of these tips and information right there on the website. And the other great thing is that, and Tom is going to hold up a flyer here, is that not only in English but now also in Spanish language. We have a flyer here that Tom has brought with us that will, for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience, it's all spelled out there.
Everything we just talked about, it opens up real nice, has the 3 steps, it's terrific. There's one other website, Paul, that's terrific. It's called ready.gov.
Okay.
And they also have really helpful things. Take you a very little amount of time to learn an awful lot and really feel like you're more prepared.
Sure. Let me give the phone number out also. It's 215-299-4000. That is the number for the Southeastern Pennsylvania chapter of the American Red Cross, 215-299-4000. This whole mindset, if you will, that I guess came about after the terrorist attacks in 2001. And then we had the anthrax scare, shortly thereafter. And, I guess it's better to, be prepared and not find yourself in a panic situation and then trying to, make up for lost ground. I mean, one thing that we learned is that, we should have, bottled water in the house. And now with, even having this kit, the Be Ready kit in case you got to leave the house, it's better to have it ahead of time than find yourself in a state of panic wondering, where's a copy of the deed to the house? At that point, it's probably too late. You need to worry about getting out that front door.
Absolutely. And, it's important for people to understand, in some circumstances, you're going to be leaving the house. But in other circumstances, the authorities are going to want you to stay in the house. There could be a tourist situation somewhere else. There could be a pandemic situation. And that's why you want to have, that water and food and other supplies right there. You're not going to carry 16 gallons of water out of the house when you're leaving, but there might be a reason you need to stay there. And you need to be able to take care of your family for that period of time.
And that's why the battery-operated radio is important, because if there's a power outage and you got to get your information from the authorities, you got to have a battery-operated, or even these crank radios, in terms of at least staying connected to what's going on in the outside world.
Very important.
Yeah. I also want to mention here, because we sort of started the program off talking about the wildfires in Southern California, as well as the situation, that happens in the city of Philadelphia practically on a daily basis, house fires. And it's that time of year that people start to close up the houses. They start to fire up the heater. They may have not changed the filter in the heater. They may have these space heaters, put them too close to bedroom bedding, and all of a sudden you got a disaster on your hands. So I also want to talk, Tom, a little bit about tips of preventing fires. We had the fire commissioner on a previous show, and he was great, during October, talking about fire prevention and safety, awareness month. But this is sort of something that you need to practice 365 days out of the year. You just don't wait 1 month out of the year and say, we have to have an escape plan in case there's a house fire. You got to sort of be prepared again in the event of a fire.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very true, Paul, that the winter months are the prime fire season because some of those causes of fire. But our experience at the Red Cross is they happen anytime, anywhere, middle of the night, middle of the day. Though there are more in the winter seasons, we have plenty of fires all year long. As I mentioned, we had 2 just last night. I think it's hard for people to realize we have a home fire every 79 seconds in this country. We lose a life every 135 minutes in this country to a home fire, not any other kind of thing. And it is the kind of causes that you mentioned, Paul. The fatal fires in the city of Philadelphia, believe it or not, the top 2 causes of fatal fires here are smoking and electrical hazards, kinds of things. But typically, the causes of fires in this country, the top cause of a fire is cooking. Cooking. There are twice as many fires on Thanksgiving as any other day of the year, but cooking fires, things related to the kitchen. The second leading cause of fires and the leading cause of fatalities nationwide is alternate forms of heat. So portable and fixed space heaters, fireplaces, etc. 75% of all deaths from fires in this country are caused by fires that started because of a space heater and things. And the points that you make are critical. A space heater, you don't have anything within about 3 feet of it.
Sure.
You definitely don't hang clothing on it to warm up the clothing or whatever. All of those are absolute no-nos. But even some less obvious things, candles, Paul. There's a significant number of fires that are caused by candles in bedrooms. You don't let a candle within 12 inches of anywhere else. You don't leave a candle in a room without a person being in there. Those sorts of things. Very fundamental, but sometimes we just forget that. And isn't it hard to believe that the leading cause of fires in this country is kitchen related, and the leading cause of fire deaths are portable forms of heat.
And many times, and the fire commissioner would be the first one that would be out in front and would say, it's imperative, it's important, it's critical that people have working smoke alarms in their homes. And people, we see, the commissioner on television, and they'll say, well, there were smoke alarms in the house, but they were not working. The batteries had been taken out for whatever reason. So it's important to have working smoke alarms, and that we mean working is that there are batteries in there.
The commissioner and I write an op-ed piece every year on this, and the headline of it is "Smoke Alarms Save Fires." Period. There's just no way around that. It's not going to stop the fire, but it's going to save the life.
Sure.
70% of all the fires in America that cause a fatality are in homes where there's either no smoking alarm or one that doesn't operate properly. And our numbers are very similar in the city of Philadelphia. Your chances of surviving a fire are dramatically improved if you've got that smoke alarm. And we're very lucky in this city. If you can't afford a smoke alarm, you can call the fire department and they will come and install one for you.
Yeah, that's an important point. Also, you should have a home fire safety drill, and it should be practiced regularly, just sort of like we talked about, in the first part of the program, that you know what the escape route is once you're outside, where you're going to go, where the family's going to meet. It's critical.
Oh, it's a big part of it. And when you think about the number of house fires we have in this country every year, it's in every family's interest to do that. We have 10% more house fires now than we had in 2000. So it's not like that situation's getting better, Paul. So every family ought to have a little drill, ought to agree what are the best and safest ways for us to get out of the house depending on where the fire is in the house. And just knowing the vast majority of these fires start in the kitchen. So what's our best way to get away from the kitchen?
Sure, yeah. And I guess a good thing to have in the kitchen cabinet is probably a small fire extinguisher.
You absolutely want to have one that's easily accessible to your kitchen. And if you are a family that has to use a portable space heater, we put on an addition to our house when I was growing up, that was the only form of heat in that room, then you want to have a fire prevention equipment right there as well.
Sure, yeah. I also want to mention, at this time of year, people will start to decorate the homes. And, because we're a city of neighborhoods, everybody up the block likes to outdo the next person. And there are extension cords, and there are probably people that, may run, unwise, I'll say, electrical hookups in order to illuminate the house, for the holidays. You got to make sure that those extension cords are UL listed, and that you're not overloading the circuits of the house, because again, it could cause a fire.
Absolutely. The fire commissioner and I, we work closely with the Northeast Electrical Contractors Association, IBEW Local 98. They're real experts on this kind of thing. And it's the very obvious things, you've just got to take care of them. Can't have the frayed wires. Not a good idea to have a bunch of wiring going under the rugs or even over a doorway. Just not a good idea. And the biggest problem is overloading circuits.
Sure.
People get those strip things and they stick 6 plugs in there. If you feel some heat anywhere along there, wow, call the authorities right away. You have a problem. But it is, again, generally pretty obvious things, that we really need to pay attention to, especially at the holiday seasons. Cooking on Thanksgiving, decorations at Christmas. Big causes of fires.
And of course, live trees inside the house. That smells great, they look great, but again, when you put electrical lights on a live tree and that tree starts to dry out, you have really a tinderbox sitting in the middle of your living room.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know the exact numbers on that, Paul, but again, the Christmas tree-related fires are a serious problem in this country. We love our trees. We just need to be sure that we follow basic safety rules when we put them in our house.
In terms of the overall role of the Red Cross, I mean, when the Red Cross was initially established, and I'm talking about the big, Red Cross, the parent organization, if you will, has the mission changed from the very beginning?
I think it's evolved in a couple of ways, Paul. The original foundation of the Red Cross was because a Swiss national literally walked across a battlefield in France, was absolutely appalled at what he saw, and said there ought to be a way for somebody to come in here and help these injured warriors. And he created the Red Cross. The actual cross is just the inverted Swiss flag. Of course, since we've gone into helping people have enough blood when they need it, that grew out of the wartime responsibilities. We still do a lot of work with the armed forces. Last year, out of our chapter here, we did over 3,000 cases involving the armed forces where there was some kind of a crisis here at home, and we're the connector to find that service person, let them know what's going on. And of course, we've evolved into the whole disaster response, being, as you say, when everything else is not working, the Red Cross is going to be there to help you through those first few days, most difficult times.
You mentioned, the whole blood drive, the blood effort that the Red Cross is known for. And usually at this time of year, when the holidays roll around, the blood inventories drop because people aren't making their appointments to donate blood because the holidays sort of get in the way. But it's critical that if you have to, to keep that appointment for the blood donation, because other people are depending on your blood donation if in the event there's a catastrophe.
Yeah, it's really quite a remarkable thing, Paul, and I think it says something about our country. Almost half of our blood supply in this country is donated by people through the American Red Cross. That people line up, thousands of them every day all across America, and donate their blood to somebody they're never going to meet, and whenever I think about that, it really gives me a great sense about who we are as a country, and the fact that we could survive as a country with half of our blood supply coming from absolute donations through a nonprofit organization. It's a wonderful thing.
Yep, and again, if you're interested in donating blood, now's the time to do so. You could call the Red Cross at 215-299-4000 and find the location of the nearest blood drive to you. And you'll hear the news stories. Once the holidays roll around, those inventories begin to drop, and at some points it drops to a critically dangerously low level. So you want to make sure that you keep those appointments, make those blood donations, so we can get through the holidays with ample supply and inventory of blood if in the event that we need it. And if we don't need it, it's still fine because the blood is stockpiled in the event, but people may think, well, they're not going to need my blood because the next person is going to show up and donate. You can't take that for granted.
No, it's a very serious business, and it's not just about a pint of blood. It's about the products in your blood. Some people have very valuable blood that can cure diseases. So don't assume it's just whether giving a pint of blood every 2 months. There may be other things that you can do that, as I say, help people you'll never meet.
Sure.
But that you've done a great service to.
In the 2 minutes that we have left, I want to go back because I know much of what you, Tom, do and everybody else at the Red Cross really depends on the volunteers. And again, if people are looking to do something, they may only have a few hours a week, they may be a retiree, and they may have 40 hours a week. You're always looking for volunteers at the Red Cross.
Absolutely, and again, they can both call us or they can go to the website, and right on that first page it'll say how to volunteer. Just to give you a sense, in this past week, we've got 26 of our volunteers in California. We had several dozen of our volunteers in a little cooped up room with 10 laptops where they're taking these emergency calls from California. We had some other volunteers come in and backfill for us to do reception and things like that during a crisis time like that. And then we have our normal volunteers out there teaching 22 classes every day in health and safety and prevention activities. And it's, again, it's a wonderful part of America. I've lived overseas and there's wonderful stuff happening everywhere, but I've never been anywhere where the spirit of volunteerism is as strong as it is in this country. And I've never worked with an organization where it's so vital to the success of the organization as it is with the Red Cross. So we take all kinds of folks, all kinds of skill sets, and we're happy to have them.
Well, it's been a fast half hour, and I thank you for your time. It's been a very informative half hour. And again, if people want more information about the Be Ready, Be Red Cross Ready campaign, you could go to the Red Cross's website, which is redcross-philly.org. That's the website for the Southeastern Pennsylvania chapter of the American Red Cross. Again, it's redcross-philly.com, or you could call 215-299-4000 for more information. I'd like to thank Tom Foley, CEO of the American Red Cross Southeastern Pennsylvania chapter, for being with us here on the Philly Factor. Tom, thanks very much.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. And until the next time, have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. For the Philly Factor, I'm Paul Perillo.